Right. Yes. Recording in progress. There will be bourbon happy hour during the day to support and to accommodate our resident author and now resident authors. Voodoo. You can follow him on X. I don't even, is your handle at Voodoo? Is that what it is?
I think it's Six Voodoo or Voodoo Six or one of those
Okay.
two.
Okay. How did you arrive at that? Was that an old call sign?
It actually was.
Okay.
Um, I joined this unit a little bit late in their deployment, and they had gone like months and months without anything happening. And the first like three patrols I went on all had three major SIGACs on
So you were a
them.
curse.
Well, good or bad, you know.
That's true. That is true. All right, so that is where he joins us from. So if you are on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, you can find him there at Voodoo Six or Six Voodoo. I think it is actually Six Voodoo. And then of course, Mark Sibley, how are you, young man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm hanging out, drinking coffee, not joining in the bourbon this time since I quit. God help me.
God is helping you. And as you're right, since as always, this is brought to you by America's Native Spirit. Today, I mean, not tonight, I will be drinking in somewhat, well, not that we'll be able to see it, but in conjunction with Voodoo. A little Russell's 10 year brought to you by the fine folks of the Wild Turkey Distillery out in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. But also, new sponsor, Little Evan Williams Agnar. Here we go. Mark, I knew you would like this. So I'm going to go ahead and cheers that to you, buddy. Here we go. Yep, flick me off. I thought, mm.
God, I hate you.
Oh, delicious.
So festive.
Yes. See,
Bunch of
exactly.
snot.
Voodoo, are you on Team Eggnog? I don't know if I've seen you come out yet.
I am a staunch Glühwein supporter. So I'm not a milk fan, having been weaned from the teat at a young age. I no longer require the comfort of a warm dairy product going down my throat. But I'm also not anti-eggnog. I have no strong opinion. I am, you know, drinking something else.
Well, that's cool. This is actually not warm because it has bourbon in it and cream. Must be chilled. All right. So, eggnog, Evan Williams, Heaven Hill. All right. What was it that you're sipping on with me in Unity?
Yeah, I believe it or not, I don't keep a lot of bourbon at the house. I'm more of a scotch guy and
Yeah, that
like a
sounds
whiskey guy. Something about the sugar, the sugary taste of bourbon just sort of offends me. But because this is a theme, and I am a team player, I went out and got a Russell's Reserve private barrel selection from my local distillery, and
outstanding.
it's so far so good. You know, it's good to switch out from like the super peaty scotches every now and then.
Is that what you actually drink? The super peaty stuff? That's the one scotch I just really can't do.
Yeah, I got a back in my previous life, I was sent to the UK for a period of time to work with some of the Scottish regiments, and I wasn't a Scotch guy before I left, and my boss was like handed me three or four bottles and was like, "Get learned," and I started drinking them, and they're okay, you know, and they're pretty good, but the I got that taste for like the very bog water, peaty,
Yeah.
tequila Scotch, and it's 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 sort of a penance. You know, you drink it and it hurts, and you're just reminded of all the things you've done wrong in your life, and that's
Yeah.
sort of the whole vibe around Scotch anyway. So
So I would encourage you to go pick up this High West Campfire because it is a blend of rye whiskey, bourbon, blended malt Scotch whiskey, and some other Scotch. It literally tastes like a campfire, but it's got that peatedness to it and sounds like something you would really like. Uh, our good friend Nick Guy put me onto this about 5 years ago, and you can tell this is how much I've drank of it. So it's,
yeah, I'd buy some of that.
yeah, that'd be good. All right, so the reason we are all joined together is Voodoo has a new book coming out, and it is called Blood Memory. Am I right?
Yep, that
All
is
right, and
correct.
what is Blood Memory about? Why is Mark here with you? Where do we go now?
So I mean, the book is set in the sort of the fictional world that Mark created after who knows how many bottles of liquid comfort. Because
Gallons.
yeah, I can't even imagine the amount you had to sit there and think and drink to put together like a World War III scenario that the United States is immediately disadvantaged in. But yeah, so that's the situation. You know, it's within Sibley's Mongol Moon universe. It's World War III. The United States is at a huge disadvantage, and a lot of um, Mongol Moon and its sequel, and ideally its future sequels, um, revolve around sort of the big picture, like the macro of what's happening. It gives you the bigger understanding, you know, the 10,000 foot view of the war,
Mhm.
set through some characters and their smaller stories. But from what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at, okay, what happens when world wars occur, right? You know, they occur, you know, you fight in Europe, right? You think about World War One. World War One's fought in the trenches of Western Europe, right? And they're in France, but it's also fought in Turkey a little bit, and it's also fought in places like Africa, right? You get these tiny little groups of Germans and these larger groups of British saying, okay, well, our friends and countrymen are at war back there, so I guess we're gonna have ourselves a tussle here, and they just go to war, right? And there's nothing to really be gained by fighting here. There's no larger strategic benefit to it. Both in World War One and World War Two, you see these little brush wars in Africa pop up. But what you do get is you get this kind of interesting view on war because you have these large colonial armies, and they're for the most part cut off from their larger colonial empire. You get the Germans in World War Two, or sorry, World War One under a guy named Leto von Warbeck, who essentially takes his like tiny German, you know, army, and he's a lieutenant colonel, I think, at the time, and he just goes off into the hills and starts ambushing the British, right? And so you see these lower level leaders and these lower level guys playing these like outsized roles within the conflict. Whereas, you know, on the Western Front or on the Eastern Front in World War One and World War Two, you talk about army groups and field marshals and all these other guys. I really wanted to focus on what happens when the lower level guys are in charge of the war. You know, the colonels and the majors and the gunnery sergeants, and you know, there's a group of National Guard guys in this book. You know, what happens when those guys got to go to war? And that's always been more interesting to me than like reading about the 30th Army taking on the 5th, you know, Panzer Grenadier Group and all this other stuff. So, you know, that's sort of what the book's about. It's about this bunch of people have their families in Africa. There's a bunch of civilians because, you know, when the war starts, right? Whoever's at these embassies, whoever's there on business is just there, right? And now you're trapped by the war, and you got to decide what to do. It's a very personal, you know, decision. Do you fight? Do you just lay low? Do you surrender? You know, what is your decision to make, right? It's a lot easier, you know, living in Akron, Ohio, and the nukes start falling and the Russian paratroopers start red dawning out of the sky to be like, all right, well, I guess here I go. But to do this outside of your own country it's an interesting psychological choice to have put before you.
Does stuff like that you just described, these little skirmishes that are of no real, I guess, consequence to the bigger picture at the moment, does that only happen because you are so far away from those, you know, your actual mainland, and this could occur now in a World War III scenario because you're just completely cut off with Mark's dropping of EMPs and nuclear weapons and shit that's just totally frying communications, and so you're just there.
I think it's both, right? Like, and we all know that the more rank you have around, the less fun you get to have, right? And the less creativity you get to do, right? And if you get, you know, one lieutenant colonel with, you know, 400, 500 guys, and the order is just, I don't know, go fight the British wherever you find them. Like, you get to have a lot more interesting things. That's one. But then two, you know, the scope and the size of the territory sort of allows a lot of flexibility, right? And you can look at World War One and World War Two and say, okay, you had essentially a line of soldiers from the English Channel all the way down to Italy, and you could have some creativity and some flexibility, and certainly there were things that happened within um, those campaigns that showed some initiative and some innovation. But one of my favorite stories from World War One in Africa is the British tried to attack this German position, and the Germans had set hundreds of beehives out there in the field, and like the British didn't know they were out there, and this Indian unit tried to charge through them, and knocked over millions of bees, and then they started to run, right? Because could you imagine like going to a two-star general and being like, all right, sir, hear me out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna lay these beehives out, and we're gonna try to get them to run through them. It would never happen, right?
Nightmare fuel for me.
Yeah, for anyone, for
Yeah.
humans.
Right?
What's that life?
Yeah, and I mean that battle was so successful that the British, I mean, not just because of the bees, but the British actually abandoned their whole beachhead, and the Germans stocked up on rifles and ammunition and food and everything else, and that one battle supplied them throughout the whole war because of the Germans and their stupid bees.
Sounds like that was what kind of led to the creation of the flamethrower.
Yeah, I mean,
How else are you gonna get through a bunch of fucking bees?
probably the best way to
Napalm.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. So all right, let me bring Mark into this. Mark, so are these timelines lined up at all? I know you're working on book three, but this is clearly before that. So we've already had book two. We're already in kind of the next order of effects after book one. So does this blood memory, does this tie in at all to where you're at? Does this pick up anything?
I don't I don't know that it directly interacts with
It's
the
just
main
what's
books
coming on. Yeah.
yet. Um, but it's definitely within the timeline, right? Um, there are other authors that are writing their own stories based off of their short stories in Apocalypse and Pieces 1 and 2, which
Mhm.
Voodoo is also in, both of them. Um, they're expanding their stories, and I am specifically with Steve Stratton. Um, he and I have met at my coffee shop several times and kind of walked through, how his guys are connecting with mine and helping kind of. And he was just back at the coffee shop this week, um,
When you wrote your tweet,
unexpectedly.
when you wrote your
And
tweets worth of words.
do what?
When you wrote your tweets worth of words,
Yes.
book three. Yes. Okay.
And we're starting to get much more integrated with the stories because Steve's doing 3 books,
Three.
starting with Dances with Wolves in the Mongol Moon world. And that's in the US. So Voodoo's is in Africa. So they're not necessarily connected. Voodoo, we talked about this, but I don't remember where we laid it out or where we left it. Do you?
Yeah, I because you write at this glacial pace, it's it's hard to know what like the timeline is, right? And things happen in your books pretty quickly, and so it's like, okay, do we want to start this like a month later? Do we want to start it a day later? Do I start 2 weeks later? And so I kind of leave it sort of ambiguous, right? Because Africa is one of those places where like time is sort of its own independent factor, where like
Right. Right.
it doesn't stuff happens. It's like Mexico, right? It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
Mexican Standard Time is a thing, and the same is true of Africa. Like it's time just moves differently there, and so there are things I think that we had discussed that you could take from something that I had written and use it, but there's no real direct link between the two. Both of the short stories that I put in the anthologies are connected to this universe, right? So they're both connected to the Mongol Moon one, but they're also connected to Blood Memory. So like if you read those two short stories, they stand up on their own because I wrote them all three at the same time. The book, which started as a short-ish story, yeah, it was what, like 50,000 words when I sent it to them as a short story, which was like 40,000 words over what they wanted. But I sent them all three and said, okay, which ones do you want? but yeah, so those two short stories are related. But I wrote it, not that I don't want Mark to sell as many Mongol Moon books as humanly possible, but to sort of not be required reading
Right.
to go to one from the next, right? So within Blood Memory, it says, okay, essentially there is World War III. It sort of gives a very general description of how that war started or what they know, right? Because they're in Africa, so you're about as unknowing as they are to what happened, right? Because as far as they know, everything just went black one day. All their communications went black. Everything else went black. There were no nukes. There were no sabotage teams. Just all of their connection to the outside world went away. And I mean, to be fair, they probably partied hard for a day, not having to check in with Germany. But after that, I think they sort of figured out that this was not a good thing. And so that's sort of where the books sort of tie into each other. Is they are connected and they are within the same universe, to be sure, but they are not sort of interrelated that you have to like read one to understand the other.
Right. And I'll tag on that. It's actually a little bit freeing for the reader not to be waiting for some kind of interaction or interconnection or whatever. It is completely cut off, right? And I read Voodoo's novel before it was named or before there was a cover, before anything, and I swear it's one of the best stories I've ever read. And it is there's something about a convoy story where you have to get from point A to point B and you have to go through 7 miles of crap to get there and all this other stuff. Because it's Africa. This is Africa, right?
Yeah.
It just resonated. And it's a completely, I mean, you could read this without it being in the Mongol Moon universe or whatever, and just World War III happening. But like Voodoo said, I mean, we were doing the short stories, and he sent me that I think it was 40 some thousand words, and he was like, "Hey, check this short story out." And I was like, "Dude, this is not a short." And then he said, "Oh, well, how about these other two? These are shorter." And I was like, "I asked you to do one." And he gave me 3, all not short stories. So 2 of them went in the anthology, but this one was kind of the impetus for me saying, "Hey, this might be a thing where a lot of readers loved certain short stories and might want to read more about that and have it expanded." And so we asked some other authors if they wanted to expand on theirs, and they were all like, "Hell yeah." So that kind of jump started this whole thing where over the next year, you're going to see all of these novels come out in different aspects, different places in the world, in different, in the Mongol Moon timeline and universe. Some interconnect with the main books, some don't yet. But this one truly was, I mean, I couldn't put it down. It was awesome. And Voodoo is hell, he got into some stuff that I couldn't write, just based on his experience,
Right.
Doing what he has done in his life. So my convoy stuff looks like a kindergarten wrote it next to his. So
Yeah, but you have clowns, so
I do. I do. I mean, I have clowns and I have puppies.
do have puppies. So okay, Luda, that's where I wanted. That's what kind of jumped in my mind. So does yours end, or is it written with the intent of continuing, like the Mongol Moon series just keeps going, and we're going to make Mark write 28 books at some point?
So, I mean, the book does end, right? There is an ending
Right.
to it. It's not a very good ending. It's very open, very ambiguous, and I sent it to a few people, and they're like, "I hate this ending." I was like, "Then it's perfect, right? Then it's perfect. If you hate it, if it causes visceral pain to the reader, then it's a great ending."
I hated it.
Yeah, well,
Sounds like
then
the
perfect.
movie I just watched last night, A House of Dynamite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's open, right? And it was open because it's just a story, right? So I'm telling the story, and I kind of wanted to see how the story was received. Um, if it was received well, there's room to expand it. There's a lot of characters who kind of their fates are left ambiguous. There's a lot of conflicts that are left ambiguous. The story does end, and, the main plot is resolved. So
Okay.
it's not one of those words like, well, I don't know if I just read all these pages for no purpose. I don't know how the main story ends. The main story does end one way or the other. But a lot of even the main characters, their fates are left sort of uncertain. And
And that's where I I finished it and I put the book down and I looked at the ceiling and I was like, fucking Voodoo. And I was like, there better be another one. You better be
So
writing
that's what I was
another
going to
one.
ask. Will there be bullying for Blood Memory too? Or is it just this is Blood Memory, this is it?
yeah, I mean, we'll see how people, if I'm
Bullying
a little bit
works.
more resilient than Mark. But if the people want it, people want to read more, then that's what we'll do, right? It's sort of a fun activity for me. And so if I have fun doing it and people have fun reading it, then that's all that matters.
Does that sound about right, Mark?
That sounds about right, but there better be a fucking another one.
So does this make your life harder, Mark, with the writing that you have to do?
No,
No.
no, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it's this is I've talked to Voodoo a bit about this. I've talked to Steve and I've talked to other authors that are writing their own stories, and we're coming to the conclusion that a lot of these stories, as the timeline moves on in the Mongol Moon universe and battle lines shift and other things happen, that there may be a joining of forces, so to
Ah,
speak, and where storylines actually come together in certain spots with all the various novels. Because honestly, I think that would be pretty cool to have all these disparate authors writing their own stories and then eventually have this coordination behind the scenes to have things kind of come together one way or the other, right? So
do you control that in terms of like trying to match an overall story arc without, or are you just open to?
I'm the way I do it is I've I've given the authors like carte blanche, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I have brainstorming sessions with some of them. I'm like, what about this? What about that? Um, like I did with Steve just this week at the coffee shop. And I was like, hey, what about this? And he was like, well, I was already thinking about all these things in that vein. And I was like, perfect. Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I think there will be some kumbaya of storylines eventually. It's not hard to do. There just needs to be some deconfliction as people write,
Yeah.
you know.
You keep referencing the coffee shop. Is that like a code word for a brothel or something? Like, is
Yeah.
that a
I've been to the coffee shop.
Yes, you have.
that's
Yeah.
not a surprise.
We drank a lot of wine at the coffee shop.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
None of these are telling me it's not a brothel.
No,
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 there was,
not unless
not
it's
that
in the
I,
back and
there
it's
was that
very
weird
small.
swinging chair.
Right. No,
Yeah,
the
and I
coffee
think
shop is the coffee shop. That's where I do my writing.
okay. And I think one of the interesting things about setting this in Africa is nobody really cares like what happens there, right? And that's just it's
Right.
the truth. Like nobody really cares. It's hard to care what's happening in Zambia when you're fighting Russian paratroopers in New York, right? Like there's one of my favorite scenes from the Pacific, which I think is a vastly superior miniseries to Band of Brothers. Is
I recall you having that opinion.
yeah, they announced VE Day to the dudes fight. I think they were on Okinawa at that point. And they're like, ah, well,
Right.
they won in Europe, and the guy's like, good for them.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We're
Good
gonna
for
be
them.
here a while.
Somebody
Yeah,
want
and
to tell the
it's
Japanese?
Yeah.
Because
it's like the same in the same would happen in Africa. Basically, you would have the war would end or continue on or whatever would happen, but you're still beset on all these sides by these tribal beefs and all the stuff that's been going on, and everyone who's still there are not beholden to whatever country they came from. And there's this greed and enrichment that have always drawn people to Africa, and that would not go away just because China and the United States were like, all right, we're going to take a break from our world war here. You're not saved just because people 5,000 miles away decided to quit fighting. Like there's
Yeah.
still danger everywhere.
It's funny that you say Russian paratroopers drop into New York because Jim Kiernan, one of the other authors, is expanding his short story The Neighbors into a novel in New York with Russians.
Yeah,
Well, I hope what's his name's going to be leading New York through that. This fucking commie socialist they're about to elect. That'd be great.
It'll be awesome.
is his
It's gonna be
name
awesome.
Zorhan? Is that what his name
I
is?
think I can't. It's something like that. Vorhan Zomdi. Like every time I think of his name, I'm just reminded of that fucking genie and Big with Tom
Or that
Hanks.
Yeah,
Adam
yeah,
Sandler movie, which was like "Don't mess with the Zohan" or whatever
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
I
That's
don't know.
Zohan.
Yeah,
let's
Oh my
see. I
God.
gotta look this up. Mayor. What is going on with that shit anyway? Like, how is New York 23 years post 9/11, 24 years? How did we get to that point? Uh,
I mean, how does the whole country get to the point we're at, right? Like it's just a slippery
Zoran
slope that
Mom.
goes into a nosedive.
Right. I mean, just look at Ireland. The Irish are about
Oh,
to
but I keep.
reinstitute the IRA to get rid of that shit.
Like I said, bring back the Fenians, man. If they need to take people back, just they've got a very bloody history for a reason. Somehow it's gone dormant. And I don't know if it may have been Voodoo or it may have been somebody else in one of those chats. It's just like they killed all the men over the last two world wars. Like
Yeah.
all the people who are willing to actually go take their country back have been dead. They've got the weak bloodlines left.
Yeah, I have that. I've had that theory about Germany for a very
Yeah,
long time. It's like how do the Germans go from what they were to what they are now in like a span of
pretty
two
short time.
generations?
Yeah,
And
like
and one of the things is a third of them became Polish. So they took Prussia and gave like a third of Prussia to Poland, and they're like, okay, this is yours now. And so I'm a believer that every like
although
sort
we're
of
all Polish now.
yeah, sort of like every base thing Polish does is because they absorbed Prussia.
Right.
um,
They're all Hessians
And
now.
we
but yeah,
accept. We
like
accept.
just from scientifically, you can't lose 10% of your best and strongest and brightest, and then be okay in two generations. Like that takes time
Yeah.
to come back to the top, and hopefully they figure it out and they get the time, and hopefully Poland can come to the rescue of their brothers, and we'll see how it goes.
So what's Irish or what's Ireland's excuse then?
They've always been a
Yeah.
pack of
The weather.
yeah. I mean, I'm a believer that the UK should have just nuked Ireland and called it a day. It saved everyone the trouble.
Yeah. Well, they do make most of their Guinness in Nigeria now, so
Yeah.
it's
Speaking of,
completely
have you
useless.
guys seen this fucking show, House of Guinness?
No, I'm told to watch it, but
I got like two episodes left. I don't like it's full of your typical Netflix fucking.
yeah.
It's just so over the top, unnecessary. Especially when it's all like, I mean, it's very open in the front. It says, "This is these stories are based on facts." It's not trying to say it's like based on a true story, but they're also completely making up the older Guinness brother being a homosexual when there's no evidence that he actually was.
Yeah. The fact is, Ireland is a place. Guinness is a thing, and everything
Yeah.
else, we're just gonna wing it.
We're just fucking winging it. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. But yeah,
My
that's
people,
going
I
on.
can't believe it.
They did the same like there was an Oktoberfest show, and I got like
Oh,
two
really?
episodes in, and they're like murdering each other over like what tent they're gonna have. I was like, all right, that's enough. Like,
Well, I did say this. I mentioned it earlier, but this movie, House of Dynamite, because it made me think of you, Mark, the whole
Oh,
month
well,
thing last night. Have you heard of this movie?
no, no, but I'm glad you're thinking about me in your free
I'm
time.
always thinking about you, buddy. Oh, no, so House of Dynamite just came out on Netflix yesterday. It's devoid of all. Well, I mean, they're for the most part, they don't Netflix it up, right, with the corny shit, but it's told from the perspective of like an operations officer within the White House, like cell of shit that goes crazy, essentially. Um, the overall general of the United States Army is the Air Force guy, this four-star General Brady. He's in Indo-PACOM, and then from the president and the uh, Secretary of Defense. So it's basically in three acts, but it's all the exact same script and everything, just from those different perspectives. So you ties into like what's going on
Ah,
essentially.
gotcha.
But the story is basically an ICBM is launched. No one knows where it came from. They think it's just going to be a typical launch and it's just going to land in the Sea of Japan. They theorize it's China, maybe Russia, most likely North Korea, but nobody really knows. It wasn't picked up on radar until too late. And we try to shoot it down twice. It doesn't work. Essentially, it comes and it's going to impact in Chicago. And so it's happening. Like this is going to happen. So it's got like 20 minutes, and during that 20 minutes, it shows all these different perspectives, and then it just ends with the president kind of making his decision on what he's going to do. But while that's going on, they're evacuating all these people, and this is what made me think of you. This Raven Rock Mountain complex. Familiar with that?
Right.
Isn't that what you wrote about?
I wrote about the other one, Mount
Okay.
Weather, which is in Virginia.
Mount
Raven
Weather.
Rock's in
That's right. Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yes. Okay. So I was like, holy shit, we got real life Mongol moon shit going on. And then like it just ends. And I'm like, what the fuck? It just ends? It just
Just
fucking ends.
just like my
It,
first book. It just ends, man.
but I was very, very surprised because A, Netflix, but B, I was like, holy shit, this was actually really, really good.
Wow,
So I
now I
highly
have to watch
recommend
it.
it. Yeah, I think you should watch it. Check it out. So it's less
Okay.
than two
So
hours. It's pretty good.
it was a real nuke, right? It wasn't like a fake, like a false
No,
alarm.
they thought it was like they kept thinking it was fake, and then they realized it was coming suborbital, and they're like, "Oh shit, we gotta, you know, try and actually do something here." And I guess we launched these two. I'm trying to remember what the fuck they were called, but they're two things that we shoot out. They attempt to intersect with that and take it down, and they miss twice, and they describe it as it's ineffective because you're trying to hit a bullet with a bullet, essentially,
Yeah.
is what they call it. So.
Well, they got interceptors in Alaska and they got that.
Right.
You
And there's a
got
unit there. They're watching a unit that's the ones responsible for launching. They launch out. It's really well done. It's really well done. I was
okay,
surprised.
cool.
I was actually
The
Now I'm
surprised.
excited.
That sounds like an Air Force excuse. So it's too hard to save everybody. Our
They were,
bad.
no, these were Army dudes. It was
Well, that
Army unit.
doesn't seem right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was Army major. Officer, of course, who's
of
on the
course.
phone fighting with his wife at the beginning of the movie, and she leaves him. So very
Well,
Army,
yeah, very Army.
very
Very
Army
the
stuff.
most realistic thing I think I've heard. Because I asked because there was a real life incident in like '83, I think, where this Russian,
Able
I guess
Archer.
Soviet, yeah, like Soviet missile officer named Petrov, I think Stanislav Petrov, detected like a full scale nuclear attack from the United States, and his guidelines sort of said, you have to report this higher, and he knew like what would happen, like because I guess relations were bad in '83. Um, Sibley was around back then, so he'd know more than the rest of us. But he essentially was like, yeah, I don't think so. That doesn't make any sense. And everyone was yelling at him, you got to report this, you got to report this. And he was like, no, we're gonna shut everything down and reset and do some diagnostics. And then we're gonna know if we're really, a full scale nuclear attack. And he did, and turns out it was like a flock of seagulls or something.
Yeah, I do remember reading
And
about this.
yeah, and so this one dude basically prevented World War III on his own, which is pretty cool of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do tie this in because there's this other storyline that's following this deputy national security advisor, and he's on the phone with Russia because they can't figure out how to patch in the Russian with our president because technology, like you trying to figure out your fucking headphones.
Yeah,
So he's having to answer and make promises, and the Russians obviously like, we saying we're going to believe that? Like, we know you're going to do something back, and which they ultimately end up doing, but it just leaves it, so you have no idea what actually happens. But the fact that everyone at once is trying to figure out, okay, what's going on, and then once we miss, then everybody starts mobilizing their forces, and everyone's just trying to figure out the craziness. And then that brings me back to why I thought of Mongol Moon, because I'm just like, we are so comfortable. We're so comfortable. And we think everything's the worst. Like, oh my God, everything's fucking awful. Like, but it's like, man, I'm over here drinking eggnog, talking to two dudes on a fucking Zoom call. not worrying about whether I'm getting about to be impacted by some fucking runaway nuke, you know? Like, but if that happens, I always go back to Mark's book. Like, what do we do? Like you said, well,
Right.
I guess we party the first 24 hours and then we're like, oh shit, now what? Because yeah, like what do you do next?
Yeah. And
Well,
that's
the
sort
first,
of,
I
you
have a
know,
plan for the first 24 hours if it actually happens, and it won't be a party.
I guess it depends on how you like to have fun.
I've done my area study.
Yeah.
I know what I need to do.
What were you saying, Voodoo?
No, I guess that's sort of how I look at it too. It's like, we live these lives and we have this normalcy bias that things trend towards normal. And it doesn't take much to upset that. I look at like the another event that Mark was around for, that New York blackout, and like what was it, like 70 something, and it only took New York like 12 hours to descend into like Gotham, right? It didn't take
Yeah.
very long at all.
Yeah.
Well,
And
New
that
York
was
in the
just,
70s makes sense too.
yeah, that was just the lights went out, right? Nothing else happened, like just no lights, and it just collapsed, right? And I think that's one of the interesting things about blood memory is that Africa already kind of sucks. And one of the themes is like there's not a huge difference between Africa the day before the nukes and the day after the nukes, right? Stuff just keeps going on, right? And you'll see those effects later on, when stuff stops arriving from China or stops arriving from the United States. But there's probably going to be like a 3-4 month time where like the only thing that you notice is the internet doesn't work as well as it used to, right? Because you don't get updates on your phone, you don't get others, you can't watch sports, but they just keep going on, and that's sort of one of the themes. It's like this is a place where the outside world is there, but if you're not here and if you're not boots on the ground where things are happening, you might as well not even know it's here, right? It's a
Yeah.
sort of a mysterious place like that.
Can I
It's like your short story Barroom in Mombasa, man. It was just, I mean, minus the head fake. Um, People are just sitting in a bar, hanging out, you know?
yeah. So, Voodoo, were you in Afghanistan or just Iraq or both?
But I was in both.
Okay, so I would say more so Afghanistan. Did you ever feel that way when you were there?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
The
Like,
Yeah, I always told people like in Iraq you miss home, and in Afghanistan you miss Iraq, because you're just out there, man. Like, and
yeah.
we learned, we used to do this like sort of advise and assist patrol out to this Afghan army unit, and we did it for like 9 months, and then we learned that we were like outside the golden hour by like an hour and a half. And so then they were like, "Oh, you got to stop." I was like, "I can't just stop. Like, we got to figure this out." But we're so far away that we were probably 100 miles, 200 miles from the nearest American. And you're just out there, right? Like, and these people don't care. Like, they don't care that you're American. They don't care that you're
No,
Russian. They don't care.
don't give a fuck. No, it's just
You could be British for all they care. Like, they've not seen
great history there.
yeah, and it's I mean, if anyone's been to Afghanistan, you've seen like the ginger Afghans, and you've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
yeah, and it's like, well, I don't know where these people came from, but I have a good guess.
No. I have a
Even
great picture of this little boy outside of Kaya eating a box of Cheez-Its we gave him. I used to call it Cheez-It diplomacy, but he's got like blonde hair down to here.
yeah,
They're all like, "Is this your fucking illegitimate kid? How long have you been in Afghanistan?" I'm like, "It's not mine." But
yeah, my dad used to call it Hean and Sheehan, and it's a thing that happens, and it's always going to go on, and that Afghanistan's like that. Like, you're just out there, and there's always those stories about Russia where like they find some village where they think the czar is still in charge, and there's always a thing where like, "Oh, you don't look like Soviets to us. You don't speak Russian," and like they haven't seen a Westerner since the Soviets were there. And you go out to some of those like remote places, like in Badakhshan, or like way out there in the mountains, and that's legitimate. Like, those people haven't seen a Westerner maybe in 2 or 3 decades, and
no,
they
it's
just
Like
doesn't mean they're
Manassas,
not
Virginia.
keeping on. Yeah.
what did you say, Mark?
It's like Manassas, Virginia.
Where did we just walk through a few weeks ago? Remember, I was like, where the fuck am I, Afghanistan? Like, I was literally like, what the fuck is going on right now? I feel like I am out. Did I just go through a
What
time storm warp?
were we in Reston? We were in Reston.
I think it was. Yeah. Voodoo, you would have had to, I can't even describe it without sounding Yeah, I'll just leave
Would
it.
the shawarma have been quality, or would it have been like mall shawarma?
It would have been mall shawarma because we're at literally a fucking mall that's just over. Like I was just dropped down in downtown Kabul. I'm like, what the fuck? Where am I right now?
Like Annie Ann's shawarma.
Yeah, it was so odd. I was just like, oh, okay. And then, like, wait a minute. It's literally everyone. Like it's everyone.
Right.
And they've all got lanyards on. Like, what is going
Right. Right. There was some
on?
conference.
Yeah, why is
There was a
everyone?
conference.
It was wild. It was wild. But yeah, no, I think Afghanistan was the one place where I just remember I never felt so far away from everything. And then I could look down and still have like Sniper Hill internet once in a while on my phone. I was like, oh, look at all these emails and text messages coming in. It was the weirdest shit because in Iraq, you didn't have that. When I went through the invasion in '03, there wasn't an iPhone. Like you still waited 2 hours in a phone line to go talk, or you maybe tried to do.
Yeah, the old MWR.
Yeah, or like, somebody had a fucking what was those tri-band phones where you could spend $3 a minute and call home. But there was no internet, there was no Wi-Fi, there was none of that. And then now we're in Afghanistan, and it's like what you described. You could be in the middle of fucking nowhere and you still got service.
Yeah, and we
Like you can never escape your shit back home because it's always there.
we had some Navy EOD guys that lived with us, and they had like Indian satellite TV. And so we're living
Amazing.
basically in a place where we only ate a meal once a day because we didn't have that much food stored up. But we're doing like yoga in the morning with our satellite TV, and
That's awesome.
we had cots, like we slept on cots, so it was like we
Yeah.
clear the cots out of the one PC medium we had, and then like
Awesome.
did the team yoga, and then went back. And yeah, and it's just one of those like weird things. Like as you get further along, like the technology got better, and
Yeah.
you had access to stuff. Then Afghanistan's like that because like you're standing in a place where like Alexander walked through. Like there's only so many ways from Afghanistan to India, and if you're standing in one of those valleys, Alexander's guys came through there, right? And now you're doing it and doing Indian yoga at the same time.
You do yoga at the same time. Did you feel like though in that moment, because you did something obviously very different than I did, but did you in a way enjoy it because of the bond you guys created? Like you're
Oh
just
yeah,
like this is the worst fucking place I could possibly be, but you know what? It's not that bad because I got my boys and we're
yeah,
doing yoga.
yeah, for sure. And we used to have this problem when we would go to the some of the Afghan units, and we'd stay the night at like the Afghan police or the Afghan army unit, and we learned to keep our boots on, not because it was like super dangerous, but like in the morning in the dark, you'd get up and like put on your buddy's size eights, and then you'd fight because like you're like, why are you putting your stinky feet in my boots? And like it's not until you get back that you're like, I miss that guy. But like at the time, you're like, man, I'm gonna stab him when he falls asleep. If that dude snores one more night, I'm
Yeah.
stabbing him right in the neck.
Which may have been a real thought from the ANA or ANP that you were around, but
Yeah, but like only I get to stab my guy.
yeah.
Nobody else gets to stab him.
I think but the I just never felt comfortable around any AN anything.
No,
And
and you can't.
no,
Like,
the worst was like when they flew us from Bagram over to NKC for the night. I remember like all the guard towers were guarded by ANA, and they're all up there with their AKs. And we get dropped off at the helipad. We come through the gate, and we got to walk this little walk where you go by two or three towers. And I'm like, no one has a problem with these fucking dudes with AKs, and we're like walking around like with nothing. Like,
yeah, no, it's
what are
I
we
mean,
doing? What are we
maybe
doing?
they took the firing pins out. I don't know, or gave him like 2 rounds, like a warning round. You know?
It was just wild to me. This being there that I was there a few days, and I'd look out and I'd go see people. They're out running they're running the perimeter and they're running past. I'm like, you just go out running with fucking
Yeah, I don't know.
Afghan
Like
dudes in a tower that are just watching you run by with an AK. Like,
that's that normalcy bias, right? Like you just
Yeah, you get used
nothing's
to
gonna
anything.
happen, right?
yeah, that's gonna happen until oh shit. Well, there's a whole green on blue attack. Great, awesome.
There was a time though in Afghanistan. This is kind of in the book a little bit. This Afghan inspires one of the characters in the book, but he was one of the actual Northern Alliance guys, and like everyone in Afghanistan claims they were in the Northern Alliance, right?
Oh,
And if it's
yeah.
like the French resistance, right, or like the resistance to Hitler. Like if you look at it now, like the French resistance had 15 million troops in it, and you know, but he was actually a Northern Alliance guy, and there were while we were there, and I had a team doing PSD on him
Oh,
specifically, and
wow.
a lot of the guys from the generals wanted to come out and meet him and get a handshake and get a photo, and um, but there were like four like assassination attempts on him.
No,
And
wow.
we were talking one day, and he was like, what do you think about, having your team, do the security detail for me? I was like, I mean, it's one of the few places in Afghanistan where people want to kill someone else more than they want to kill us. So I'm all right with it. And, as long as I stay, good 15 feet from me at all time, like we're gonna have a great time. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it was wild. Like they hated him so much that they just tried to kill him over and over again. And he was too crafty. He was like he'd been a warlord, then he joined the Northern Alliance, then he, became a corps commander for the ANP, and he was just this short little fat Afghan man who now owns I think it's like a jewelry store in Virginia somewhere.
Oh shit, we should go visit him, Mark.
Yeah, we should.
We probably saw him that night. We were out in Reston.
He was in
His
there.
jewelry store's
He
probably
had
in
to be in
Reston. Who
there.
knows? The weirdest Afghanistan story I had was when I was out, because apparently I didn't realize this until I was there, but apparently there's a huge Afghan population in Sacramento when I got stationed out there doing recruiting in Roseville, north of it. And I was going out to Folsom. I remember I was going to Folsom to meet with some prospective one in the join. And I stopped to get gas, and I'm inside the gas station. I start talking to the dude because he's clearly Afghan. And um, he's like, yeah, my brother was an interpreter over in Afghanistan in Kabul. I was like, oh, really? Yeah, I have a bunch of pictures with this guy AJ. He's like, yeah, I think he went by AJ. I'm like, okay, man, your brother went by AJ. Okay. Every interpreter that I ever met was, they're AJ. So I pull out the photo of me and him and I show him. He's like, that's my brother. And he pulls out a picture of him with his brother, and it's clearly him. I'm like, what the fuck? What are the fucking odds of me running into this dude's brother in the United States in Sacramento, where I would like nothing in the world would take me to Sacramento other than the army. And I'm there for all of a month, and I run into my old interpreter's fucking brother at who he runs a fucking gas station in Folsom, right on the intersection of the American River.
Holy shit.
That's like the smallest fucking planet ever when you realize that shit. Like that makes no sense.
Yeah,
That
that's
makes it.
that's a wild one.
It's,
We had one of my interpreters. They did like the lineup, right? And there's like six interpreters, and like, all right, which one do you want? And I asked like, where are you guys from? And one guy was like, I'm from Kandahar. I was like, I'll take him. And everyone was like, why would you take him? I was like, he's probably in the Taliban, and he probably quit because the Taliban was doing in Vietnam they call it the Hu Choi program, but like they take Viet Cong guys and like rehabilitate them. And they did the same thing in Afghanistan. They took like former Taliban guys and like taught them a trade, and some of them spoke English, and they made them interpreters. And everyone was like, why would you take the former Taliban guy as your interpreter? And I was like, because of all the people, he's not going to betray me because like they hate him more than they hate me. So, as long as I've got him around me, like I'm safe from getting betrayed and shot in the back.
fucking wild. There's AJ.
Wow.
There's AJ. Good old AJ.
Yeah, look, I love the ACU vest
Yeah,
we
like, of
always
course.
gave
We only
him.
gave him the ACU, the finest ACU vest.
Yeah,
Here, you'll be all right, buddy.
Wow.
here, here,
The
boy.
legend was, I don't know how true it was, but uh, Voodoo, you probably would remember this because you have a good remember. What was the movie about the? It was Afghanistan. It was
The Covenant?
no, it was earlier than that. It was overrun, and like there was a ton of shit that came out of
The
Oh,
it.
Outpost?
No, it was before that one. The
Was
Outpost.
it Restrepo?
Yes,
Yeah,
Restrepo.
Restrepo.
Supposedly, I don't know how true it is, but supposedly AJ that's where he started because he'd been an interpreter for like 15 years with the government, with the U.S. and supposedly he was at Restrepo. I don't know how true it was. I never talked to him about it, but that was like the lore around him. But Restrepo was incredible. Did you ever see that, Mark?
Yeah,
Fucking,
it was awesome.
fucking nuts.
As
No, the
awesome as
Outpost was cool
something like that
because
could get.
yeah, the Outpost was cool because I met Romesh. I met Clinton Romesh a few years ago, but at the time and in the book, PFC Davidson, he was one of my recruiters when I was a station commander out in California. He was E6 Davidson, but he's in the book, he's in the movie, he's everything. Like it's actually pretty funny because when you meet him, and Voodoo, you probably know this, like they were all Cap Scouts, right? Like they weren't like your typical infantry dudes. They're just these Cap Scouts guys. And but when I remember meeting Davidson, and it took a few months before he told me the story and showed me the book and everything. I was like, what the fuck? But you meet Davidson, he's like the most mild mannered, nicest, kind of short, kind of dorky, just really, kind of goofy dude, but just like a great heart. That's a really good person. And you start meeting this dude and you find out about him and then you read about his story and the unit and everything they went through. And then you watch the movie and then you read the books and you're like, what the fuck? But what I love about that and him is like, that's America. Just a normal fucking dude he's from God, what was the name of that fucking town up in Northern California where all the fucking weed and shit is grown? Anyway, he's from there. Like the most literal, like the last person you would think of, like almost couldn't join the army because of just where he grew up, because of his history, just the shit he did, but before being old enough. And then he goes on and is basically a fucking hero in a book, in a movie.
Right.
And it's like, that's only fucking America, man. Like
Yeah.
that's those are our people. It's just crazy to feel like the army's full of dudes like that. And like I said, Voodoo, you probably know a ton of dudes who come from similar backgrounds, and you're just like, you wouldn't know it, and you wouldn't get a chance to be around any of these people unless you were in those positions.
Yeah, and the that's a really fascinating thing about, especially the infantry world. It's like your ability to project strength has nothing to do with your ability to actually be strong in times of crisis. And
Mm.
it kind of is unfortunate because there's not a whole lot you can do to be hardwired to withstand the immediate stress of combat, right? The guys either or snap or they don't, and there's things you can do to build that resilience and to build your ability. And there's the army focuses on fundamentals and they focus on simple things, not because we're all stupid, but it's because you know in a combat situation your lizard brain takes over and you need things to be simple, right? Like
Mm.
I even thought sports like the immediate action on your rifle was too long. I like the Marine Corps version of just slap rack bang, right? Just simple. Like keep it simple, do simple stuff. And so that helps you. But at the end of the day, it's the way your brain's wired, the way your personality is, the way you are. And often the more relaxed, more I guess cool
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are more willing or are more able to absorb that stress. And the people who are just so wired tight and so gung ho, it just snaps them because they're holding on to this persona that they have. And I think a lot of that, after combat too, like, there's this sort of idea that, everyone that comes back from war is just like this shattered shell of a human. And a lot of it's just not true. And
Yeah.
a lot of it doesn't depend on what you saw over there. It's personality based and time based. And if you have this personality where you are just kind of sort of, okay, that's the thing that happened. I'm going to get over it. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to make it work. And then I'm going to move on with my life. That is the way to do it. And some of these people hold on to that stress for, a decade or more. And it just eats away at them. And if you're that type of person who was pretty easygoing, pretty relaxed, pretty chill, you get over that stuff a lot easier than if you were this person who like defines your life by this thing that you did.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially when I think more about Nick, and then I think about the other guys I had in my office. This guy Saragoza, another dude, cab dude, Purple Heart, 82nd Airborne, super like literally I never saw this dude upset about anything. Just super chill. 3 years he was just always like really he used to he used to do these presentations in the school because he was Mexican guy. He was a Mexican, but he finished up his time before he became in recruiting in Germany, and he married a wife over there and brought her back. And so he used to always do these presentations. He's like, so my war trophy was my imported German wife, and here's a picture of her and my kids. So I still love but like it was just shit like that. Like it's you only come across that stuff, I think, in the military, man. Like the only thing that remotely comes close to it is like sports. I talk about sports all the time. Like in college, like Very different because you're not obviously going to fucking war, but it's just the only other place where you'll get men from all over the country or different backgrounds coming together to do one thing. And the only thing that replaces that or comes close is the military, where that's it. You can't find a job like this in the civilian world. You're just never going to walk into an environment like that. And it's
Yeah,
just,
and
No, not
that's
really.
that's part of the I think the interesting thing about, or I guess one of the interesting things about this book is that these people are from all over the United States and now they're in Africa together,
yeah,
and most of them have no idea what happened at home, right? And most of them have no idea how their family's doing. They have no way to know, you know, if they're from, DC, they probably have a pretty good idea what happened to their family.
yeah,
But if you're from Wichita, or if you're from Montana, which a good number of people in the story are, you have no idea. Like, you have no idea what happened. You have no idea what your family's doing. But now you gotta do your best, and you gotta work with people that you don't know, and you gotta sort of come together as Americans. And one of the interesting, I think, at least I think, is the interesting thing, is that the book sort of mirrors storylines. And so you have this group of Americans, and then you also have this group of Russians. And so you get to see how the Americans do business. You get to see how the Russians do business. And as you go through the story, they face some of the same challenges. And you really get to see the American way to approach those challenges versus the Russian way to approach those challenges. And of course, I'm biased towards the American way. So of course, the American way is shown to be vastly superior.
as
But
a,
yeah, you get to see different cultures at work and how they approach different things.
why did you said there's a bunch of guys from Montana? Because this brings me back to the World War I thing. Why'd you choose a bunch of people from Montana?
Um, so I chose Montana for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to write the characters in this book where they're not like known to other people. So I don't want people to read it and be like, "Oh, I'm from Akron. Nobody from Akron would do this. Nobody from Akron would talk like that. Nobody's from Montana. And if they are, then nobody really cares like what they have to say, because they're just country, like Idaho. They're just out there doing their country thing. Um, and that's basically it. Another one, and I sort of, to be honest, I made this up a little bit. Um, AFRICOM and UCOM also have a thing called the State Partnership Program, where like National Guard units from different states have different foreign partners, and they do joint training and they do joint, operations, sort of to build sort of an allyship between them. And Montana has Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka already has its own civil war and problems. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. We'll just pretend that their state partner is Zambia. And that's sort of where the story starts, is this group of Montanans who are on this Advon to do a training event with the Zambians, gets trapped there by World War III. And that's sort of where it starts.
That's funny. So the reason I go back to the Montana thing is, like I said, when I was out there, so I went. This was Yeah, it was Ash Wednesday. So I went to the St. Helena Cathedral, and when you come out of the cathedral, you walk down the wing, like beautiful, beautiful church. But there's this big bronze plaque on the wall with like hundreds of names of brothers and families who went and served in World War I who were from Helena. And I took a picture of it, obviously, like, and I looked at it, and there's a few sets of brothers, and it's like, oh shit, there's three. Oh shit, there's several sets of four brothers,
Wow.
Yeah.
four. And what really drew my attention to it was like, this is Montana
Yeah.
in World War I. How the fuck did they get these people? Like, who came and was like, hey, we need you over in France?
Yeah.
Like, that's so far removed. Like, I mean, think about how hard it was for DC to control anything for so long
Right.
from the rest of the country, right? Before like technology now. Like, think about that though. In World War I, like World War I, you're just like, hey, uh, I need all you to get on the train. We're going over. Like,
And
what?
Yeah, and a lot of that's like the mobilization of the state regiments, right? So before World War One, you still had like the Third Ohio and the National Guard units had those like state affiliations, and it was only in World War One did they get like federal regiment names. But I was reading one time a friend of mine's a state and he's in the National Guard, but he's like a state historian. They sort of logging all of the different places people from that state have fought battles. And he was telling me that in World War One, they used to have this like you can come try the National Guard for a weekend. Just come with your buddy. You can shoot, you can camp, you can whatever. But when they got the mobilization order, they just basically said, okay, well, I know you just came for the weekend with your buddy, but welcome to the army. And they just like roped all those guys into the regiment.
We should do that now.
Yeah, and they were like, "Well, I'm not in the army." Like, well, you weren't, you see, but now you are.
Wait, guess what?
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah,
And
but
you
I
still
can't
have
even
your buddy.
imagine.
You
Yeah,
still have
like,
your friend.
and they were on like a train to Texas the next day to like pre-mob.
It is super
Wow.
wild. It
But
really,
you got to know that like in one of those guys, there was a wife who was like, "I don't want you doing this. You should be at home. You should be doing that this weekend." Then he doesn't come back because he goes to France and comes back 2 years later.
yeah, right.
She's like, "I told you." She's waiting there on the front porch, right?
Told
Like,
you
I
not
told
to
you not
go
to
with,
go.
with Voodoo.
And now you're in France.
How was it? Would you bring me
Yeah. What'd you bring me back? Did you bring me champagne?
yeah, to bring your champagne back? Back when we used to be able to have fun things to take home from war.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Voodoo, but I remember coming home from Iraq and talking to my grandfather. He was the only reason I joined the army, but he was in Korea. And he would sit here and ask and ask and ask, like, would you like all he wanted to know, like the fun we had. I'm like, I didn't have any fun. And you know
Yeah.
why? Because of people like you, Grandpa, and what you guys did. You had all the fun and you ruined it for my generation. Like, I don't get to have fun. I get to stand in a PX line. I'm not allowed to go out and get on the economy because I don't have those options. I don't get to go party and go steal beer and go do all these cool things that you guys did because you ruined it for everyone else. I have this thing called General Order Number One. Thanks a lot.
Well, I got myself certified as our customs officer.
Oh, nice. See,
And
I
so
like,
I got to inspect everything that went into a Connex to go home.
I love it.
So
Nice confiscation,
we had
little
I
trunk.
mean, we had what we had.
Yep. Yeah, there's always ways around it, but I just, as
Yeah, no. Well, and
22
it's also
with me
like,
coming home, I'm like, Grandpa, I don't have any stories for you, man. I'm sorry.
well, and also, what would you do on the economy in Ramadi?
Right?
Right? Like, what would you do? Like, go have a shawarma and then go home? Right?
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be great.
yeah.
It was- the one time we went out, I remember we went to Baghdad to go get this was like a week after we had we secured the city or whatever. It was a week after, and like we went into this the third ID guys gave our battalion a ton of money to go get MWR equipment. So we're like, all right, let's go try and find gym equipment. So we went into like the square in Baghdad and we're at a sporting goods store. And it was hilarious because out in front, all along the sidewalks are all of these like little vendors set up on their little tables with satellites and TVs and phones and all this shit. Like a week before, he didn't have any of this because, Saddam was still in power. And so it was kind of funny to see just like how quickly shit changed, and everyone's like, "Hey, the Americans are here. Let's start making money and selling some fucking bootleg shit." You talked about the Indian TV, like we had. This is probably after like 6 or 7 months of being there, but we finally got like a satellite dish installed, and all they showed was cricket.
Yeah.
It was all Iraqi, fucking Iraqi cricket, and all of it was just the weirdest shit. But it was just like, all right, it's not like we have TV. We might as well watch.
Ah, ah.
We did find sporting equipment. Like it was just the cheapest shit you could ever. It was so bad. And then like I remember like 2 months later, like they finally sent real gym equipment from the States over, and it was like, how do these people actually exercise without killing themselves? Which you
They
realize
don't.
they don't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a total Western thing.
Yeah.
Which I
That's
did
a nice
find
thing.
funny about Afghanistan. Like you'd go through Kabul and you'd see gyms, but they'd have pictures of like American bodybuilders on it. Like
Yeah.
Lee Haney's out like this big of like, I wonder if Lee Haney knows like his image is being used in Kabul, Afghanistan to advertise chill.
Is he getting any licensing for this?
Right. It's totally ripped off.
There's little Abdul up there
That's
with his
wild.
ripped biceps and shit.
I remember walking through a market and seeing a Steve Largent Seattle Seahawks jersey in Afghanistan. I'm like, I wonder if he's getting paid for this.
Uh,
Like, who sells a Steve Largent jersey? This is so wild.
I mean, it was probably made
Steve
there.
Largent.
It was
Holy
made there.
crap, dude.
Stolen right off the line.
Yeah, that was great. All right, what else do we need to know about this Mongol Moon world as it comes back to you, Mark? We know Blood Memory's coming out first. All right, so when does Blood Memory come out? Do we have a drop date?
It
We
will
don't
be
yet.
out by Christmas, right?
Well, yes, yes. And the ball was in your court to get
Uh-oh.
talking with them. And I'm told that the pronunciation guide for the Audible is done. Yes.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I learned is that not everyone
Speaks
in the
African.
world knows how to pronounce places like Lubumbashi and Mapulo and all these other places. And like they had to do this like pronunciation guide of all these places and all these things and all these words. And it turned out to be like 189 words I had to pronounce, and they all wanted it in one file. So I'm just trying not to like screw up or cough or anything. And it was an interesting thing that I didn't know you had to do, but yeah, I sent that in, and hopefully they're going to find someone who can understand the words that I say and can read, and there'll be an audiobook that's timed at the same time that the actual book comes out.
Yep.
Sounds like
Yep.
an opportunity to support a small business in Africa where you write.
Yeah, the problem is there's also English words, and so we don't want
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for every one African word, there's 200 English words.
Indeed, there is.
All right.
Yeah. So
By Christmas. All right, Mark.
I
Yes.
think Voodoo's Blood Memory will drop before Christmas. It will, barring any major catastrophes. And that will start the parade of other novels that are going to be coming out early and through next year. But we wanted to start with Voodoo's because it really sets kind of the tone and gives people, because people always ask, hey, what's going on in this part of the world, or what's going on in that part of the world? And my characters don't go there really.
Right.
Which is kind of why I wanted to write the short stories, because those are not in the US. They're all over the place. So I think getting the short stories done to kind of expand Mongol Moon universe and, Europe and Southeast Asia and Korea and other places. Voodoo did really good setup and foundational work with Barroom in Mombasa, and I forgot the title of the other short story, Voodoo, set in the embassy in West Africa. But those were great. And then this one just opens up the continent, right? The middle of the continent. And it's amazing. And it's stuff that people won't necessarily ever read in any other books. It's really, it gives you a full view of what Africa's really like off the beaten path. Right. And then off the beaten path. And then, all of a sudden we're having dinner in a nice spot, and we're sleeping in a bed again, and we're doing all this stuff. And then we're back out in the bush. Right. So it really pulls you in all different directions. And it's awesome. I loved reading it. And that's going to give people, it's going to round out the world a bit as we get into book 3 and these other books, which are kind of mostly centered in the US, to round out the US, because that's where most of the action happens. But this is a great, view into what happens when half the world goes dark, but the other half, the global South, is just humming right along. And like Voodoo said, we got Russians, we got Chinese, we got Americans, we got all these people that are all pretty much cut off from the outside world. So why not just fight each other, right? And it's pretty cool. Plus, Voodoo has a penchant for putting some twists in there, and you don't know certain things, and I won't go into it, but it took me most of the book to figure one thing out. and it was pretty cool. I had an inkling, but it was pretty cool. So there's some surprises, and I think that's where the second book, Voodoo, that you're going to write um, is going to go into.
This guy
Yeah,
hasn't even written a third book yet, and he's out here demanding a second from Voodoo.
dude,
Unbelievable.
you don't know I haven't written a third book. You don't know that.
Where is it?
You don't know it's behind your faces on my laptop.
Yeah, so that's the final question. When's the third book due out, Mark?
It'll be out next year.
Well, that's vague.
Yeah.
Next year.
Would you like next decade?
That's still technically next year.
Yeah, but I narrowed it down for you.
Can we get a month? Can we get a season? A quarter?
Mid-ish next year.
So before this time next year.
Oh, I would hope. Yeah.
Well,
Hope is not a strategy, Mark.
in Mark's defense, Blood Memory is like 550 pages, so it's going to take at least
What?
5 months
It's
for him to read
550
that.
fucking pages?
Yeah, it's a long book.
God, you are such a fucking officer.
Yeah, it started at 40,
Brevity, my friend.
40,000 words, and they were like, "Can you make this at least 90?" And so I
Are
made it
you-
150.
Are you our version of Stephen King, where just every book has to be just god awful?
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta. That's part of the charm is like it brings you that level of exhaustion of just being in Africa, and at the end you're like, "Do I have malaria? Maybe I do."
Did I take my pills today?
Yeah, did I take my mefloquine today?
I feel like after I put the book down that I actually got bit on the ankle by a cobra. That's what I felt like. I had to go to the ER.
550 pages.
Better than getting bitten by a hippopotamus.
That's true.
That is very.
At least you have a chance with a cobra. A small
And
one.
people have survived hippo puncture wounds, and it's not very common, but people
Not
do
many.
survive.
Not
Yeah.
many.
I would assume they have to survive the hippo's anger more than the puncture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a large creature.
Crap, dude.
and people talk about like psyops, but there's like a psyop out there to get people to believe that hippos are nice and cool, and they are just evil. They're mean. There's a hippo at some zoo that they keep feeding watermelon to and putting stuff on Instagram, and it's like this is not a. You should shoot that hippo.
This could
Shoot
be
it
your
right
head.
now. Yeah,
That's what the watermelons represent.
So this is random. I know we were going to end it, but this is so random because one of my coworkers was talking about apparently there's these signs out in San Diego, like if you're in the water to stay away from certain areas because the Navy has the dolphins, and the dolphins are trained to like ram your ribs to break them.
Wow.
Like dolphins are they will fuck you up. They will swim into you and break your ribs. Like they're trained to protect this naval base. Did
Right.
you know this? This is
that
No,
sounds
and also,
exactly like something the Navy
also
would
they
do.
will sexually assault you if you let them.
Why do you know that, Mark?
It's a thing. Not personal. I don't go in the water, man.
You don't go in the water?
I can't see down there. I don't know what's down there.
Can you swim?
Yes, I swim very well.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's how you get out of the water. You just swim out of it.
Swim out of it because there's hippos and sharks and sexually abusive dolphins and all kinds of shit in there that you can't see.
No, you're right. I don't want to be in the ocean. No.
No, I mean you can't see
I'll
what's down
swim,
there.
but I'm not like this whole there's a lot of shit down there. I'm not trying to figure out what it is.
I mean, I'll go in the waves.
I'll go to space before I'll go deep sea diving or any of that. I'm not
Well,
doing
deep sea
this.
diving's different. You're down
No,
there.
I'm
and you
not
can
doing that.
see.
No. Do you
You
know
can
what
see
could come
shit.
and find you? You have no idea.
Dude, I'll do that. I can't fall. That's what I'm afraid of.
Falling?
Falling off a mountain.
You can sink.
I don't sink.
You can just keep sinking.
No, I don't.
Some giant fish can just come drag you down to the
I'm
depths of the
freaking
water.
buoyant, dude.
Are you more buoyant than a fucking killer whale just being like, oh, look, snack?
I'm not gonna dive with killer whales unless I'm in a cage.
Why
You know,
would
That would be cool.
There's a famous, I think it's Charles Bukowski quote that says, "Man is the apex predator, and the superior animal, and that superiority lasts right up to the water's edge."
Yeah.
Yes. There's some crazy shit out there that no, I'm not doing it. You know who's all about it though is China. You ever see those markets with the seafood shit that they find
Oh, yeah.
and they eat? China worries me only based on the things that they eat.
They eat everything.
They
It's
really
weird.
do.
I
and you
can't eat that
really
shit.
fucking eat everything.
I ain't
Yeah,
gonna
I'll
eat
say one more thing is I'm a little disappointed in the short stories of the lack of cannibalism that I see.
Is there
Well,
cannibalism?
hey,
Blood
look,
memory?
man, we're only a couple, 3 weeks into the apocalypse here.
That's
People
true.
are,
I mean, we're on book 3, but we really aren't that far ahead.
we haven't gotten there yet, but trust me, it's coming. I
I
mean,
mean, I'm a first 24 hours we're getting long pork guy
that's why
right
you
on my
need
bond me.
sauce.
Mark, I appreciate how you actually seek out ways to make your work more authentic and believable. So I'm just really curious who you're going to talk to about cannibalism.
Claude,
Who?
Claude,
Claude. Said
because
Claude.
he's got the sauce, man. It's all about the sauce. Anybody from Texas, it's all barbecue, but you got to have sauce. You have good sauce with it. Otherwise, it just tastes like chicken.
There is a scene in Blood Memory about um, the different smells different humans make when they burn.
Mm,
Um, I think it's good for this conversation. You know,
that's
if you
great.
read it and think I'm full of it,
Now,
let
now
me
I
know. But
remember. I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm recalling that. Yeah.
yeah, perfect for
I mean,
perfect for cooking.
It
yeah,
was
I was gonna say
particularly uh yeah, visionary.
I had the PRK surgery on my eyes years ago, and I distinctly remember the smell of the lasers burning my eyeballs.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean that's just cooked flesh, bro.
It's cooked eyeball. It's
Yeah,
different.
But why? Holy shit. I like glasses. We've
Nah, you
cooked
don't want
shit in
that.
my
You
eyeballs.
do this just so you can
No,
experience
no.
the
you
odors.
I
should
don't need to experience it. You've done it for me.
you
You've
should get
done
that
it for me.
ocular deficiency corrected, man.
Yeah. Glasses. What are you gonna do when they break? There's no optometry in the wait,
I can see
there's no
fine-ish
optometry in
without
the
them.
apocalypse, Mark.
I've kept all my old glasses, so and I know what the prescription
He
is.
said
That's
there were no
that's one
tacos.
of
We're about to have human tacos in the apocalypse, bro. What up?
that's
Human
that's not
tacos in the
wrong.
apocalypse. Let's
Not
go.
far off.
I'm ready. Well, that should be book 4.
Um, your book 4 is a little weird. I've already
So
started it.
you've started it, but you haven't finished 3.
Right. Yeah,
Is that when the is that when
I
the
got kind
aliens
of over my
come?
skis.
Yeah, when are the aliens coming? You seen that shit in the news recently about that star NASA's following, and they're just like, basically the star is like, you guys are
Don't
fucked. We're
care as
coming.
long as it doesn't slow down. If it starts slowing down or changing trajectory, we're gonna have some fun, some visitors. And you know what? At this point, nobody's gonna give a shit. We've seen all the movies. It doesn't matter. They
Half the
can
people on
land.
Twitter are going to say it's fake.
I know.
You're
That's
gonna see
going
Probably
on
some.
right
broken.
now.
It'll probably land in Durban or Cape Town and break down, and they'll put fence around it.
It'd be
Give it 10 months
great.
and you'll see some blonde alien babies. That's how we come full circle, ladies and
There
gentlemen.
it
That's
is.
right.
That's how book 2
It's
starts.
probably going to be humans because they probably are coming back to see how their planting went, their harvest,
Yeah.
because they
Not good.
planted us there
Not, yeah, not
Not
thousands of
good.
years ago. What?
He
Not
said,
good.
not
No,
good.
no.
Not good. All right, boys, appreciate your time. You can follow both of these gentlemen. You can see he's right there, Sibley at MNSIBLEY. And then at 6 Voodoo on X. Get their books, the Mongol Moon series, you can find through Wargate Books everywhere, Amazon, all that shit. Blood Memory coming out sometime before Christmas. Book 3 in the Mongol Moon series coming out sometime the next decade, I am assured. Yes, outstanding. All right, boys, thanks.
All right. Have a
Thanks,
good one,
bud.
guys.